Alright everybody, welcome to the Daily Space Weather. Before we get started with this, thou shalt spike pile drive this bug just like the rest. We'll get to that in a minute, actually several minutes, but first let's take looks at the sun. By the way, we are streaming this live to Twitch because the platform is so good. So I've got ideas about things and I'm about to share them. First, we're looking at the sun at 193 angstroms here, and we're going to see a sunspot type area forming right here at the end of the video. That's 48 hours of the local yellow dwarf, and not a sunspot yet, but could turn into one, and it's forming right as it faces Earth, about just a little bit out of the sort of meridional line there toward the Earth. Right in that region. So that's the area to watch throughout the day. Or I could say keep an eye on. Here's the 171 angstroms view. And we've got no custom videos today, as we've got videos being demonetized on YouTube. So we're starting things out with a little bit of a social media section, as we've got to give credit to Facebook. Well done, Facebook, for reinstating some of our posts. However, the rest of the internet not looking so good these days, as all kinds of content is getting shadow banned, throttled, and scrubbed from the internet entirely. We'll get to that in a minute too, as Google loves to bury the truth, promote their favorite politician, highest bidder, and content designed for people dumber than algae. If you wonder who does try but instead does die, that's Google, a zombie corporation. If you wonder who does try but instead will just die, that's a Google. To ruin the internet, it's a damn good bet, that's a Google. They mislead, so please heed these warnings about alphabets, Google. Since they can't break the web, we'll just break them instead. That's a Google. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you may not see that kind of stuff. And also check us out on Facebook. I don't know who's sending me Facebook messages, but please don't use Facebook Messenger, as it is some of the worst spyware on the internet on mobile devices. Although we must say, they have been reinstating our posts. We're also on Twitter. It's twitter.com/smAsho. Minds.com/smAsho. On Gab. And I don't know why we're back at the SDO. We should be at HelioViewer. Oh, there we are. HelioViewer.org, looking at the fields, and there you can see that area of magnetic organization right in the Earth-facing zone. And we see some possibilities of a small coronal mass ejection having hit on some of the data. We'll get to it in a minute. Here's the fade from magnetogram to 171 angstroms. And we're skipping movies today, and we're going to go out to stereo A to show you a coronal mass ejection hitting stereo A. It's quite sure that that's what's going on there. And we're also sighting this comet here, which some people seem to think is Venus, but if you look at the lines of sight, it doesn't add up. The main thing I'm talking about here is not that, but this, which that is likely a small string of that coronal mass ejection hitting stereo A. If you want to look at it yourself, just go to the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center, head to page 7, and look at the stereo A Core 2 Space Weather Beacon. I always run 100 frames at 20 frames per second to get the maximum resolution for you, our esteemed viewer. And we'll be continuing to watch that daily as we see that comet having swung around the back of the sun, making its way out toward, oh, I don't know, Uranus? Know the distinction between your you-know-what and Uranus. 10.7 centimeter radial flux has dropped back down to 71. And there's where objects are. Here's where they'll be in a week. As no pandemic is going to stop the motion of them planets. one of the latest live streams we've ever done for a space weather video, citing the fact that there's a huge pileup going on up there, including Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, the Moon, and the Sun, and Mercury, all at the same time. Don't let that cause you to go, oh my God. X-ray flux is pretty flatlined, and if that thing turns into a sunspot, we may see some X-ray flares come out of it. Not X-flares, X-ray flares. Next, we're going to look at the transients from Cygnus X3, one of the only known point sources for cosmic rays, otherwise known as the star of Deneb. X3 is a reference to the massive X-ray binary system. And if you want to read about a weird star, head to smAsho.com/forum. There's a whole section about it in the cosmology section. Next, we're going to look at cosmic rays. There's a Patity neutron monitor, flat over 30 days. Barentsburg neutron monitor, slightly down-ticked over 30 days. Here is Athens. And we look at these every couple of days, as there are countless channels on YouTube telling people that cosmic rays are at the maximum that they've ever been, and they're only going up from here, and oh my gosh, it's so scary, it's so scary. We're just waiting to see this happen, as it hasn't happened yet. I don't know if they're trying to forecast, or if they're claiming that what they're actually stating is true. There's a small, tiny uptick over the past 30 days at Mexico City's Cosmic Ray Observatory. Next, Moscow. And there's the Moscow neutron monitor. Downtick there over the past 30 days, and for that, we thank you. Next, Oulu, Finland, and one Antarctican monitor. There's Oulu. Tiny uptick over the past 30 days, and here's DOMC Antarctica. Tiny uptick there, similar to Oulu, which is, by the way, in Finland. And we always link this below our videos, especially if you're watching on a place like YouTube or BitChute. By the way, thanks Be Stoic for leaving a comment and joining the Twitch stream. Please tell your friends, tell your foes. Here's the solar wind data. And we see some evidence that there was a small coronal mass ejection hit, which doesn't appear to have showed up here on Discover. But it happened, I think it happened right here, where you see this phi angle shift. So, in any case, current solar wind density around 7 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed ramping down from its highs at around 500. So we had two little inputs there at around 500, and this one has some characteristics of a coronal mass ejection. Looks like around 3 o'clock UT. So that would have actually been here. And we don't see really any indication of that on the Discover, but on the ACE, we see a big input here, getting up to maybe about 30 protons per cubic centimeter there in the density, and ramping the speed up a little bit. So that looks like a minor coronal mass ejection strike right there. And a small bakeout too, it looks like. A little bit of missing data. Next we'll look at the magnetosphere movies. And kapow! Again, if you're not viewing this on Twitch, we've been streaming these live daily at twitch.tv/smAshomash. Anyway, this is 4 hours of data from the magnetosphere. It's the Space Weather Modeling Framework model, as this data is derived from a ton of different measurements. And we see multiple Van Allen belts have formed, otherwise a pretty steady magnetosphere. Next we'll look at the ground magnetic perturbations and come a little closer to home. 4 hours of data there, as we've got 2 north poles and a creepy south pole. I don't know if you're aware. Look up magnetic excursion if you didn't know. Perhaps we'll make a video just about that sometime, if we ever have time, and stop being overworked and underpaid. Next, the GOES magnetometer data. There you go. Yet another public service, courtesy the smAsho channel at massive personal expense. And there we go, seeing the GOES magnetometers. It's actually looking a little smoother than it has been for the past several weeks, as we've only seen a South Pole current sheet charge, shown here in red on the Gong 2 data. And you can see there's no green on the heliospheric current sheet at the plane of where the Earth's orbit is, as the whole thing is shown in red. And that is the charge of the South Pole solar polar field. Here's a line of sight field plot. The last one was if we're looking down on the sun from the North Pole. This one is more from our own perspective, derived from lots of magnetometers. Real ones, not fake ones. Please leave a comment if you understood what I've just said. Relativistic electrons have actually chilled out a little bit, and I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but I did a bike ride yesterday with a 2,800 mile per hour average speed. So check out Instagram if you haven't seen that. Try to beat that average speed, and by the way, I am available for race team contracts. If you're running a cycling team, look me up, and I'll consider doing some racing for you. Gauss electron flux has jumped up a little bit here, as forecasted, and in the next 24 to 48, this is going to get well into warning levels. So expect massive GPS errors, and this total electron content forecast is going to light up within the next 48 hours. And we're going to see gigantic GPS errors. There are already a little bit coming in here, and that's one of the features of a high electron flux, as GPS satellites are, let's just say, in a very high orbit, a geostationary orbit. Now we're looking at the ionosphere, and it's actually looking pretty anomalous here. Once again, more anomalous than before over the South Pacific. So these areas around here are looking more anomalous than they have. So they've been anomalous here for a solid month, actually more like 3 months. And it's behaving even weirder right now. Now we are making the video later than normal, as here are the latest images all the way at 1300 UT. At that point it's looking fairly normal. But ultimately there's a big charge disparity there. That's an ionospheric anomaly. And we're going to do a very short cosmology segment. We're going to talk about things like entropy, because there is a heapin' helpin' of entropy in the fields of science nowadays. So this is part of the reason why we've decided to form a science foundation, because I see no alternative. We'll be teaming up with all kinds of other sorts of organizations in the coming 5 years. So we're going to start out the cosmology segment by talking about entropy busters. Are you familiar with entropy? Are you aware that things like germs are a form of entropy when they're applied to you? If they make you sick, that equals entropy. Now, many of you may be wondering what this is. This is the Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/entropybusters. And we invite you to join the group, put up posts of your own. If you're wondering what that is the core of the Andromeda Galaxy, one of the weirder places. And we've got some insight into that. Maybe we'll make a video about that sometime. Anyway, this is what the galactic core region looks like in Andromeda. And it's very interesting because we can't see the core region, because we would be looking from across this instead of perpendicular to it. And so let's just say there are some weird blue ultramassive supergiant stars rotating around there at very high rates of speed. And it's a weird place, which is why we used it for the Entropy Busters logo, because I've been into astronomy since I could barely read. So we are trying to bust entropy, as dying is not a plan and living is a plan. So there is no plan. If you're going to be dead, there's no plan for that. So lighten up, people. And we're going to talk about entropy now. Entropy has made its way into astronomy and into modeling, as this, what you see here, is not an observation. This is a computer model attempting to explain an observation and coming up with the theory that The merger between two stars formed a blue supergiant, and that led to an iconic supernova explosion. Which, by the way, we've never seen a star form and we've never seen a star die. But there are certainly a lot of theories conjecturing about how that stuff works. So take this one with a grain of salt. Basically, the theory is because we see a cloud of nickel coming out of we see a cloud of nickel coming out at 4,000 kilometers per second. And by the way, the star in the core of the supernova isn't dead. And until we understand the way the sun works, these models are bogus. But read the article anyway, as you got to understand what you're debunking if you want to understand the science. So check out SciTech Daily. We love it, and we feature the articles from SciTech Daily regularly. Shout out to SciTech Daily. Another super interesting article when it comes to cosmology. And now I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm Lunar Gateway. What the heck? This is freaking me out, man. All right. And by the way, thanks for leaving comments, Bistoic. Did your GPS seriously take over and get all Chinese overreach on you? All right, next we're looking at pressure maps. And we're going to let this advance. This is the GFS forecast. It's windy.com. They've got a great mobile app. Perhaps check that out. And check out the anti-cyclone over Maine and Nova Scotia. Shout out to Ricky, Bubbles, and Julian. One of the best shows ever built. Makes me want to build her a cake. Trailer Park Boys. If you haven't watched Trailer Park Boys and you've got Netflix, go binge the entire series while you're shut in. Volcano Rundown includes a Croatian earthquake, which is probably deadly. It definitely knocked buildings down. And we're not going to really get into it because this is live and this is pretty serious. It's not Memorex. So it looks like it got upgraded from a 5.3 to a 5.4. How about them apples? Anyway, it did cause damage. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of channels covering it, citing the fact that the world is going to end and we're all going to die. Which is true. We are eventually all going to die. And I don't know why that would scare anybody who's not 2 years old. Please leave a comment if you heard an anecdotal report from somebody who's over 60 years old who has learned only in the past month how to wash their hands. I guess that's a perfect segue into that is you, and that is the otherwise known as COVID, the virus. Thou shalt spike pile drive this bug, just like the rest. So I don't know if you've seen our recent social media posts, but we've been there's been some posts, and we don't want to make light of a bad situation, but sometimes you got to laugh. And by the way, watch Kyle Dunnigan if you want to laugh. Kyle Dunnigan on Instagram is fantastic. If you want to read about the current goings-on, there's quite a bit of reading to be doing at smashamash.com/forum. Let's talk about basic health. The benefits of fasting. If you're not aware of how things like autophagy and the ketogenic diet work, well, basically what happens is this. If you get up in the morning and you feel like crap and you eat a bowl of sugary cereal and then you go to work and then you're suddenly very, very hungry before lunch and you feel like crap, and then you go to lunch and eat more crappy food, which gives you another massive sugar spike, and then you spend the afternoon trying to figure out how to get out of doing your job because guess what? You feel like crap as you crash from your sugar spike from lunch. And then you feel like crap again. You go home and you eat generally crappy food again for dinner. And then you go to bed with an upset stomach. That's not the way to live your life, folks. And one of the ways to prevent from screwing up your life is to get rid of the sugar, get rid of the insulin spikes, get rid of the crappy food, and head to smashamash.com/forum. So shout out to Terry. Thanks for leaving this in here. And we're going to be putting up lots more information about things like intermittent fasting, And it's not because the supply chain's running out of food, at least not here in Northeast North America. We don't see any disruptions, as far as I know, in the food supply in Northeast North America. So there are all kinds of benefits to intermittent fasting. One of the main things is that it makes you make better food decisions. I know it may seem like a crazy time to talk about making better food decisions when a lot of people are worried about vanishing and about having food, period. But there is a silver lining, folks, a silver lining. And I mean quite literally a silver lining if you own any. So understand the benefits of fasting if you want to improve your overall health. So welcome to the Neo-Renaissance, folks. And we're talking about all kinds of stuff, such as our Insanity Files section, another thread on the forum. France banned cycling and said people can only jog within 1 mile of their homes, further tightening its lockdown. So thanks for informing me once again of this one. Terrence is killing it and helping to provide information to you, all of our viewers. Now, we've updated the smAshomash.com/forum section about otherwise known as COVID-19. And since this story was scrubbed from its original publisher, we've decided to copy-paste the whole story onto our server. So there are all the graphs, and it's a great perspective looking at all kinds of different data points from all kinds of different sources and all kinds of different points of view. And you may learn something that you didn't know at all about this global pandemic, which is in some ways a dry run, and in some ways will benefit mankind massively, as it will expose the failures of centralization. Now, let me explain something that you may not get. This graph here is what's going on in the U.S. So this graph here, the U.S. is trying to avoid this and trying to have this and not this, because this would overload hospital capacity. This would be just fine. And that is why the U.S. is trying to slow the spread. I'm not being flippant in any of my posts about this scenario. What I'm doing is providing the actual information. And by the way, if you don't think summertime temperatures cook off this thing, guess what? The researchers found that all cities experiencing significant outbreaks have very similar winter climates, with an average temperature of 41 to 52 degrees, an average humidity level of 47 to 79%, with a narrow east-west distribution along the same 30 to 50 north latitude, said University of Maryland. So anyway, read the rest of the article, as we've created a repository of information here of epic proportions. It's all located at smAshomash.com/forum, and there will be some links below the video. And I'm just going to let the CNBC homepage scroll here as another value-added service. Shout out to CNBC for providing some relevant data and some irrelevant data, just like everybody else. We don't really want to be covering it, but we are anyway. And here's the current state of affairs, and I just hit refresh there for you folks. Silver looking like it sees a support level at $12.60. Yeah, there's the price of silver. I'm not going to say another word about it. You can see the yellow graph is leveling out a little bit here, according to the Johns Hopkins site. Total cases now up to 300,000. And by the way, those are only people who are tested, as we may be up to 1 billion cases. Who really knows? You can't stop a communicable viral vector like this. However, you can slow down the strain on hospitals. one of the things you need to do is watch out for government officials who attempt to
overreach
what their job is. That's one thing to certainly watch out for, as governments attempt to do things through processes of
interventionism
that aren't their jobs. Let's look at the volcano rundown, which includes Mount Aso, flight level 5,000 there. Sakurajima, flight level 10,000 there. Dakono, flight level 8,000 there. Popocatépetl, flight level 21,000 there, as it explodes not very far from Mexico City. Fuego, no volcanic ash seen in satellite. Please do not attempt to pole vault the caldera regardless. Nevado del Ruiz, explosive activity continues. 20,000-foot ash plume there. Sangay exploding. Revenador exploding. Sabancaya exploding. Flight levels 22,000, 16,000, and 25,000 respectively. Don't attempt to do the Fosbury flop over any of those, as that could be unhealthful. And on this channel, we tend to talk about human health, and we go, oh my God. Here are the jet streams, and check out the meridional jet stream flow there. Look at that area. Funky. To quote Mr. MBB333, I've never seen anything like that before in my life. I never seen anything like that before. Since you could look up at literally any sky phenomenon you ever see and say, I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Apparently that's how you get 300,000 subs on YouTube. Check out the meridional jet stream flow. Damn. It's spring in the northern hemisphere, and that is all over the place. Here's the eastern world's jets. This is what you would experience at flight level 25,000. Next, we'll look at the water vapor maps over Africa and Europe, where it's not over. It's hardly begun. And when I say it, I mean life, civilization, the universe, and everything. Here is the scenario over Oceania and the Far East. Here's a U.S. water vapor map. And we're going to zoom in on that area over Arkansas. And hoping that zooming in over Arkansas doesn't get me taken out. Oh wait, I was too far south there. Let's try again. Maybe this is good enough. There we go. That'll work. You see that? That's what's called live audibles without having to hit refresh. So there's a massive pressure gradient in that area there. And if you're wondering what's going on in the Doppler, just look at the water vapor map. Type in NASA Go's interactive weather satellite into duckduckgo.com or Yahoo or Bing or literally anything besides Google's junkware platform, and you'll probably find it. You'll probably even find it on Google's junkware platform. Here is the US Doppler radar map. And don't tell me to Google it. I don't like subjective biased search results. I prefer objective search results. And heavy storms over Texas. Let's see if there's lightning. At lightningmaps.org, which is a real-time lightning map, by the way, and it's fantastic. Couple strikes near San Antonio. Otherwise, it's looking pretty quiet. Except in the Middle East. Hey, Smash team. Thanks for tuning in, whether you're on the Smash stream. And by the way, thanks again for leaving all those comments. Cheers. Or if you're viewing on BitChute or perhaps on YouTube, please share on your social media. Please don't forget to press like and subscribe wherever you are. Consider becoming a patron and increase the possibility that the content will continue to exist, as we are prepared to pull it off of all public platforms at any moment and deprive the entire world of the information that we've been providing. We're also on Subscribestar. There's a tier there, which is a different tier to Patreon. So perhaps check that out as well. And we've got bonus features to show you that there are 0 sunspots. If we do see any form, they're going to be right around this area, I think. And let's zoom out, because that's, what do you say, that's a little too close. That active region is kind of right in the center solar disk right now, folks. And here's the magnetogram. And again, right there. That's the place to watch. Let's look at one more view. And by the way, when you're shut in, perhaps consider some brilliant programming, like binge watching Seinfeld. You could learn all about Eduardo Carocchio.
Eduardo Covidiots.
Or something like that, or better yet, Trailer Park Boys, I don't know. Please leave a comment, let us know your favorite TV shows. My list includes things like Magnum P.I., Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Star Trek The Next Generation, and Breaking Bad tops my list as the best TV series ever made. Also, let us know your movies. I'm going to attempt to do a movie review if I can get enough time between doing other things today. Thanks again, everybody who viewed on Twitch as well as on the other platforms. Please share the content in your social media, as there's a lot of information, and we're going to attempt to make more clips and highlights available as we spend more time doing absolutely nothing as the world shuts down over COVID. So anyway, cheers, folks. Remember, stare at the sun. Don't drink it. If you do, don't drive. And if you do drink, perhaps it'll be elderberry wine. And since it'll never be now again, may you be an entropy buster. Spike that bug. Stomp on it in Russian accent. Stomp on the bug. Stomp on bug. You stomp on bug. Bug tried to come to your door. You say niet. And also, may the atherosclerosis be absent from your arteries.